Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. I don't know if you all can hear it, but my daughter is doing her distance learning in the other room, and it sounds really loud to me. Speaking of comfort zones, chaos is not my comfort zone. And you may hear my partner fixing the back deck, so there's just lots and lots of different sounds going on, different people doing different things. There's me trying to do my work in here, my daughter doing distance learning out there, my partner fixing our back deck. So there's all these things. And it was actually a perfect segue. So I was saying, chaos is not my comfort zone, but it actually is some people's comfort zone, right? So I'll get to that in a minute, but I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome into our virtual room, those of you who are joining. It is 10:59 a.m. where I am on the west coast of Northern California. We had a beautiful rainy day yesterday, and today is a beautiful sunny day. So I'd love to just know where in the world you are. If you're willing to join the room in that way and just say where you are so we can get that wider sense of the virtual space that we are sharing. So this is probably going to be kind of a quickie, and I'm going to try to take some pauses here and there because I know there's a little lag time with Facebook and live and YouTube and live, and give you time to comment with any questions or shares or insights or inquiries or disagreements. So I'll try to kind of pause as we go to make space for that, because this is I wanted to just pop on fairly quickly and set a little context. Awesome. We've got the UK, we've got Vancouver, British Columbia. So beautiful to see you all joining. So there's this, people talk about comfort zones all the time, or that, in order for anything, we have to get outside of our comfort zone to have what we want, or to create a new life, or to have these different experiences. We have to get outside of our comfort zone. So there's sort of a cultural conversation about this. And it's definitely maybe more widespread in the personal growth or the coaching realm. But I think that it's hit some larger cultural conversation, right? And then there's this meme that has been going around for years, and it just sort of seems like it cycles through social media at different times, and it's like a circle like this that says, it has maybe an arrow pointing to it, or it says in there, I don't know, I should find the actual meme, but it says your comfort zone. And then there's a little dot or a little circle that's way outside this big circle here. And then there's an arrow pointing to it, and it says where the magic happens. And I always see this meme, and there's some part of me that goes yeah, that's true, or that's accurate, or there's some, and then there's always this part of me that I'm feels irritated. And so that usually to me I'm just okay, something. It's the little piece of sand in the oyster. There's something rubbing me, and it always means that there's, or I don't know about always, sometimes things are just annoying. But often if on the surface, I say well, I agree with that, or I think that's true, or there's accuracy, or I could share that and I could stand behind it. And something irritates me, that piece of sand, is I'm okay, there's some pearl here for me. There's something about the rubbing or how to be with this that actually could have a pearl, something beautiful. And I don't know, a few days ago or last week, I sort of had this piece come through where I was I think this is maybe this is the first layer of the pearl. Maybe there's more, but this is a bit of just a first layer. And what I really want to say is that most of us, most people that I talk to, even if we consciously know this isn't totally true, relate to the idea that our comfort zone feels good, and that what's outside our comfort zone will be painful or bad or hard or harsh. And even, I mean, I didn't actually, I should have looked up the definition of comfort before I got in here, because even the idea of comfort, like if we say get comfortable, usually people don't sit in like a wooden hardback chair. They're like, oh, it's time to get comfortable. That means I'm going to get a cushion, or that means I'm going to, like, oh, get comfortable means, or dress comfortably, like you're going to wear something and be comfortable. That's like sweatpants and a sweatshirt or something cozy. Not maybe restricting, leaning back in a couch, a really nice comfy chair, right? These are the words, these are the ways that we actually, when we use the word comfort or comfortable or comfy, right, all related to comfort. So then we apply it to comfort zone. And unconsciously, sometimes consciously also, but unconsciously, we're like, oh, that's all the good things in my life. That's all the things that feel good or feel easy. And the magic happens, right? This is, I think, where I was like, with this meme, is like the magic means that I have to feel pain or unpleasant, hard, harsh, painful. And what's really true is that where we're comfortable, and this is actually, I said this right at the beginning, I was sort of naming, like, I'm in my office and I have the door closed, right? I can sort of create a certain level of peace or comfort in my office. But my daughter, I can hear my daughter doing distance learning out there. And it's like, it's a little, I'm like, oh, I don't like that. And then I can hear my partner fixing the back deck, and it's kind of loud. And I'm just like, oh, there's like a lot going on. It's a lot of chaos. I actually told my ex-husband that I wasn't up for hosting an overnight with our son's best friend. I was like, yeah, I don't think I can do 3 kids on a Saturday night. I was like, chaos is like not my comfort zone. However, I know actually a lot of people for whom chaos is their comfort zone. And like a lot of things happening, and like messes in the kitchen, and this over here and this over here, and all these, and all these things. That's actually where they feel comfortable, because it's what their body, their being, their nervous system has grown accustomed to in their life, for better or for worse, right? Some of that sometimes comes from actual trauma or circumstances that in childhood or early family experiences, we could say like, oh, that's not optimal, that was developed. And some of it are like beautiful strategies and ways of being in the world, and they work really well. So I'm not pathologizing really any of these. I just want to name this piece that, out of my comfort zone is allowing for more chaos. But for somebody else, and the magic, right? The magic that can actually come from like, oh, there can be like, it's okay. I can, work with this. And there actually can be magic in that. But for somebody else, actually having there just be one thing happening and letting it be quiet. And maybe we're just having one conversation, but there's not also like a TV on or a podcast on or something else happening over here. That actually might feel very uncomfortable. And there's probably magic for that person. They don't have to do that with their whole life, right? I don't have to live in chaos, but allowing for this, or not assuming that just because, it kind of jangles me, and actually, like some of you might think, well, of course it jangles me to be in chaos. But frankly, I watch people have actually a very similar response or reaction of almost like jangling to being in peace and quiet and stillness and simplicity. They get like, in the same way that I get in chaos, because it's uncomfortable. And by uncomfortable, I would simply say unfamiliar, not what we are accustomed to. So I almost think that there would be a more accurate term, which is called like our familiar zone. Maybe it doesn't have quite the same ring, or maybe we're just not used to it. I'm not sure, but it's more like the familiar zone than always about comfort. Because a lot of people, and this is partly why I think this is so important to me, and this was also part of my journey, is I went through a period of time in my life where so much was in upheaval, and there really was quite a lot of struggle and a lot of challenges. And I was a single parent of 2 children, and making very little money, and there were some like real challenges in my life. And then, this is like fast forward. It's not like and then, but then there was this period of time where I was like, wow, my relationship is going really well. Like there's just no challenges there. And my home life is really wonderful. And my children are doing well. And I'm like consistently making more money, and all like there was so much ease. And I actually caught myself. I was driving in the car and I was at this intersection. I know exactly where I was because it was like very poignant moment. And I caught myself in like this habitual sort of anxiety or fear. And it was like that, looking around, I was like, actually, everything is good. And and it's actually uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. My being, my body, my nervous system, my mind, like all these different parts of me got very accustomed to like, okay, we need to like, make sure that things are happening with the kids. And I got to like figure out this, like move money around so that I don't bounce checks. And I got to like, kind of hustle here and hustle there and stay up late and I got into a certain momentum with that. And then it was actually unfamiliar for everything to just be like, ooh, kind of humming. And that was outside of my comfort zone. It didn't need to be hard or harsh or painful. It was actually I was allowing for the magic that was outside of my unfamiliar zone. That was, things are actually good and easy. And I made that a mantra for myself for a period. I was like, oh, and I would just literally say to myself when I would catch myself feeling afraid or this holding for the other shoe to drop or some habitual anxiety, I would just say to myself, it's safe to feel good, or it's safe for things to be easy. It's okay for things to be easy. And I have also found that the area of feeling good is actually outside of many people's comfort zone. That many of us, although we may not like it explicitly or consciously, or we may say like, oh, I want it to be easier, or I want to like these, we may not like certain struggles. They are comfortable because they are familiar. And so actually allowing for peace, allowing for calm, allowing for things to feel good, allowing for pleasure, allowing like being taken care of, being loved, being receiving, right? All of these things are actually outside of many people's comfort zone. And if I say this out loud, like probably a lot of you are like, oh yeah, actually, I do recognize that in myself, or I do see that in other people. And we might even already have known it, right? I might not be saying something that you're like, holy shit, I never even thought of that before. But it's like we forget, or when we see something like that meme that says, your comfort zone, and then out here is like the point that says where the magic happens, that there can often be this unconscious association. Oh, right, that means I need to find something painful so that I'm outside my comfort zone so that I like can get the magic. And, give myself harder practices, challenge myself more, do more, struggle more, like, the challenge piece, especially that the challenge is outside the comfort zone. And sometimes it is, right? Like it might feel really uncomfortable. For instance, if you have some sort of offering to write about it, whether you share about it in your own email list, whether you post about it on social media, whether you tell a person in person, like, hey, I have this amazing thing. Again, it could be all the way from something you offer that's like tangible, like somebody handmade these earrings, or somebody handmade this wall hanging behind me, or something more in the coaching teaching realm, or these kind of like a program or this. But to say to somebody, hey, I do this thing and it's amazing, that might be really uncomfortable, and that actually can be that kind of a challenge. Or right now, I'm offering my Beyond Boundaries program for $100 less than it generally sells for. It's kind of like my Valentine's beginning of the new year gift of like, hey, boundaries really are where it's at. And so, I'm sort of quote unquote challenging myself to talk about it every day on Instagram or on Facebook. And there is there can be these little challenges, but we don't have to make it always like hard or painful, or always like about doing more or working harder. That outside of our comfort zone can be loving ourselves or treating ourselves kindly or being treated kindly by others, right? If we've had a habit of being in not just romantic relationships, but in relational dynamics that are actually not kind to us, that when we're being loved in a kind way, again, as a friendship or treated well in an employee situation, or by a lover or a partner, it can be like, oh my, this is something's not right. It can almost feel dangerous to be treated well. But that is actually outside our comfort zone. There is magic to be had in being treated well, in being treated tenderly, in being praised. And many, many, many people that I've worked with, men and women, like non-binary, I find this place where people would rather be the ones who give more, even though there can be this like feeling of resentment or like, why doesn't anybody show up for me? Like sometimes that'll be on the surface, but underneath that, it's like so uncomfortable to potentially be indebted to somebody. And not that we actually are indebted if we allow somebody to give to us or if we receive, but I think that's the way, like there's so much tit for tat culturally that it feels like that. Like, oh, if somebody, like, oh, my partner made me a meal, now I have to make them a meal because I don't want to be like indebted, or I don't want to be the taker, or I don't like, those are places that are outside of we call it out of our familiar zone, right? I'm coining a new term here. Or out of our comfort zone, we can use the old, because it actually is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. I think it might be like a landmark education phrase, or, it's kind of like real old school personal growth and transformation, but it's like shit stinks, but it's warm. Or shit stinks, but it's warm. It's that idea like, yeah, I'll just like stay in shit because it's comfortable. Actually, it's familiar. Even if it's actually not, it's like, and we might go like, I don't want to be here. Oh, it really stinks here. Like, this, like, and then we feel it like about our lives. And a lot of times there can be this sense of like, I want things to be different, or I know I want this on the surface, but underneath it, it does actually require that we be uncomfortable in an unfamiliar way. And a lot of the time that actually requires allowing space for what is good and what is easy and what is joyful and celebration and praise and receiving generously. And so being willing to be in that space is outside of our comfort zones, and there is absolutely magic there. So my invitation is more of an awareness to start, is just noticing where do you get uncomfortable, where do sort of like, it might be actually feeling awkward or feeling uncomfortable or not knowing what to do with yourself, or like feeling a little agitated, or noticing some sort of habitual impulse to change how things are. And again, sometimes things are a certain way and we're like, I just don't like this. Like, I want to change something so that I like it more, right? That's fine. But we can have these like something needs to change here because I don't know how to be in this. And just noticing what those are first, as an act of self-honesty before any like jumping to, and I'm going to get comfortable, or I'm going to throw myself outside my comfort zone, or I got to put myself in those circumstances, is like, just notice where you're already in those places. Like, oh, this is unfamiliar. Oh, I have there's like this impulse in me to get out of this circumstance, even though I said I like it. And rather than like, why am I doing this? And why am I self-sabotaging? And like the self, pathologizing for it, they're just the recognition, right? Like the honest look in the mirror that goes like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. This is actually outside of my comfort zone because it is unfamiliar, even though I actually like it, even though it's what I've been saying that I want, even though there's something that feels good, even though, right, like drop the judgment of like, why do I have such a hard time receiving, or like, why, is pleasure uncomfortable? Just recognize like, oh, it is. It's actually unfamiliar. To stay in pleasure is unfamiliar. To feel joy and just stay with like, oh, it feels like so much joy is unfamiliar. And just that kind but honest self-reflection can do so much for allowing ourselves to begin to relax into those spaces. And in that way, I mean, what we really do is we expand what our comfort zone is. We expand our capacity. And this is where I'm going to end. This might be like the real rub of that. I mean, maybe there's always something that's outside our comfort zone, but I just want to say that's not the only place the magic happens. It's not the only place the magic happens, because it really is. And I want to say this like with assurance. It is real that we are able to expand our capacity to be in more and more and more and wider and wider and wider circumstances, both within ourselves, with other people, and external circumstances, and actually to feel comfortable. That is a capacity that can be expanded through practice, through awareness, through being held, through all of these pieces. It is absolutely a capacity that can be expanded, and we do not lose our contact with magic just because our capacity expands. So I just want to check. Yes, Lisa, that it's okay, it's safe. Like, it's okay for things to be easier. It's safe for things to feel good. Totally. That's a big one. It's a really big one. And then, let's see, my neighbor kindly snowblowered my driveway, and I feel compelled to have to do something in return. Absolutely, to make it even. It's really, I mean, it's quite common. So again, we just like let go, relaxing any judgment around it. Like, oh, I have this compulsion. And there's a real difference between just like, oh my fucking God, thank you. Like, I can't even tell you what a difference that makes in my life. Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And like, oh my God, what can I do for you? And like, cause I wouldn't want in any way to be indebted, or like to not have reciprocated. That actually, it's so deep. It's such a profound thing to just like, oh, thank you. Like, I can't even tell you what that means to me. And to actually express the difference that something makes in our lives. Like I said, I mean, I say this to my partner because he feeds me a lot, which is totally really, really helpful for me. And I'm just like, oh my God, I really needed that. Like, I didn't even know how much I needed to eat, or like, that was exactly what I needed. Like, that just changed my day. Like, really, we can be generous with our gratitude and like let go of the compulsion to tit for tat make things even. So I am so happy that your neighbor snowblowered your driveway. I can't even imagine what like having to deal with snow. Oh, I would die. Jenna said, yes, we can expand our capacity by sinking more deeply into our own comfort. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think so much of that just begins with that honest reflection, like, oh, this is really uncomfortable for me. And can I just stay, sometimes it's like, can I stay like 3 seconds longer? And then just be honest about the compulsion. And then, we just expand. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention. Sending you much love today.